Can you see this? I just pulled this hair from right here, where the sleeve meets the undergarment. It was hanging out there, and when I saw it there, I was so fucking pissed, right? Because this belongs here, right? But if I let go, well, it might stay there for a little bit. No, now it's back on my hand. When I saw this hair right here, instead of right here, you can bet I was pretty livid. Yeah, I was livid. I was triggered. I've made a point of just getting triggered by everything. It's a practice. It's a spiritual practice. Just walking around and getting triggered. But you never thought about it that way. How many times can I get triggered in a day? When I would take showers and I would find a lot of hair in a shower, piss me off. See, I've come to understand something that you might not understand, which is, in my bid to become a model citizen of the United States of America, I've discovered that the more triggered that you can be, the more patriotic you are. So I made a point, at least initially, several months ago, of getting triggered at least 5 times a day. For example, if you listen closely, you can hear police cars chasing somebody. Now that triggers me. Why? Because I'm trying to do a video here and the police are ruining the audio quality of the video. So you can already start to see the chemical reaction in my face, the hormonal output, the acerbic tonality in my voice. Because I'm trying to do a video and I have these pigs making too much noise a few miles away. So like I said, at first you start small. You get out a sheet of paper, you put 5 boxes on it, and you essentially leave yourself available to getting triggered throughout the day. And each time you get triggered, you pull out the sheet of paper and you check one of the boxes. Pretty easy. I'm feeling like a psychopath right now. I'm getting so angry at those sirens. They're just gonna keep on sirening. Okay, so a couple more weeks, I quit 10 boxes, easy. 20 boxes, easy. 50 boxes, easy. And when I got to getting triggered 100 times a day, just for the sport of it, just because it makes me patriotic, I had this idea that I was probably the most patriotic citizen in the United States. And I went to one of these dollar stores and got a clicker. I could just click all day. How many times was I getting triggered? And then I would sit in front of the television set and I wouldn't get up. I wouldn't get out of the chair until I clicked it 20 times, right? So you make points of doing various activities throughout the day that are most likely to get you triggered. So of course the news is a no-brainer, right? I mean, you can get triggered 20 times a minute in the news. And then over time you get selective about it. It's like you become a connoisseur or an aficionado of being triggered. You're like, and you got your thumb on the trigger, and you're like the trigger of the trigger device, and you're like, nah, there's probably a better one, right? So you're like, I'm gonna save 20 triggers for this TV show. and I'm only going to trigger the best triggers. Oh, yep, okay, boom, right? But then, you work from the easier stuff to the more difficult stuff, right? So your coffee's too hot, right? Now, if you were in a normal, relatively placid state of mind, the fact that your coffee is too hot isn't enough to trigger you, unless you're looking to be triggered. Okay? So then you can actually turn it around. Instead of, okay, well, in one context you have, I'm only going to be triggered by the most noble triggers, and I'm going to bypass the lesser triggers. But then in another context, where there's no triggers available at all, you have to flip it, and you have to get really subtle. You have to find that you're triggered by things that wouldn't even remotely trigger anyone under any circumstances, right? So I'm walking across a wooden floor, and I hear a little squeak from the wood, and all of a sudden I'm really pissed, right? So you can imagine that, if you go through a day like this, you can get really jazzed, really juiced, really electrified with all the triggering. There's a book by a guy named Chris Hedges called War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning. And if you think about what a trigger actually is, it's a state of war upon everything around you, right? Now I'm not a member of the military. I'm not going over to another country and attacking them for the sake of their oil or their strategic positioning in the world, etc., or because I'm part of a ulterior agenda to get their money system under our money system, the Federal Reserve or the international banking cartel. None of those reasons. I just feel that I need something to give me meaning. And I'm not in war, but I can undergo triggering. I can induce triggering throughout the day, right? I don't have to actually wait. This is the thing. You take an active approach. You're not passive, receptive, and just waiting to be triggered. You actually induce triggering throughout the day. So like I said, there's different species of triggering. You can sit down and watch the news and be triggered 20 times in a minute, and then you can say, well, I would rather be triggered by the more sublime or subtle aspects of that. Then there's the triggering where you're in an environment that is completely free of triggers and you have to create them. Right? Either way, no matter which way you slice the cake, you're inducing greater meaning in your life. So instead of war as a force that gives us meaning, triggering is a force that gives us meaning. Right? For example, I'll give you a really great example. And this is probably somewhere in between the no triggering arena and the hyper triggering arena. Flossing. I floss every day. And I'll just go at it. Etc. And I actually happened to notice that it was flicking a little bit too much of my leftover food onto the mirror. Trigger. It's as simple as that. Any opportunity to feel more alive. Because I think that's what it's really about. We don't feel alive. So we'll watch something, and because we're bored with our lives, because we're uninspired in the sense that we're not breathing the deep inhalation of spirit that animates us and makes our heart come alive, since that is utterly lacking in our hyper-domesticated lives, we get triggered all the time. And we get to the point where it's such a habit that we can just do it all day, every day. 52 weeks a year. It's pretty amazing. Ever since I've been on this kind of regimen of triggering, I feel more energetic. I'm paradoxically happier to meet people because every time I meet people, I find a way to either trigger them or be triggered by them in turn. And so it makes the whole encounter that much more dynamic. I love to bitch about existence. Everything in existence is simply wrong. But when I bitch about it, when I get triggered by everything in existence, I somehow make it right. Why? Because I feel more alive. My amygdala, my fight or flight is just going haywire. And I feel more meaning when I'm triggered. You know what I'm talking about. Go a day where you try to be as triggered by as many different things as you possibly can. Watch your interior responses as you get irritated and agitated and vindictive and fascist. Huh? Right? Oh yeah! You're just like, you want to explode. And you're like, this is why I am alive. I am alive to kvetch. I am alive to criticize. I am alive to oppose whatever exists. That's why I'm here. Do you feel that? You see how how pumped up I am? It's like I was just in the gym. All the endorphins, the adrenaline, the testosterone, all of it. All because I let myself be triggered. Right? And you notice I haven't been really specific about the various, let's say, political things that might trigger me, because I don't want to limit you. I don't want you to think, oh, it's only about this one area, let's say Fox News. See? I'm saying it. I don't want to say it, but I was just giving you an example of what I don't want to do. Listen, the cat's out of the bag. We've got nothing better to do with our lives than be triggered. It's like we'll be sitting down in front of the TV or the computer, and we're just constantly getting information. Blah, 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 blah. And getting triggered is like an orgy, right? Getting triggered is like an orgasm of reactivity. It's this wave. I don't know. I personally think getting triggered is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. Right? I don't even know why they don't teach triggering in preschool, middle school, high school, college. Although I think they are, right? They're starting to. Right? You're starting to see people getting so triggered that they actually need safe spaces to take a break. But thankfully, if you tell people that safe spaces are for intellectual cowards or whatever, then they get triggered again. So thank God for that, right? I don't know, in some ways, the more I kind of plug this variable into the equation of my life and see how it unfolds into the future, I probably don't have to do much more with my life. I think I've kind of found it. You know how we're always looking for the answer, the capital A answer? Think of how easy it is to be triggered all the time. You don't really have to do any work. And if you do induce triggering, you're having fun. You're doing it as a sport, as a leisure, as a pastime. But think about it. It requires virtually no skill no exertion, can be done at any time. And if you happen to be feeling in the doldrums or somewhat bored or lackadaisical or a state of despair even, get triggered. See what it does to you. It's like sticking your finger in a wall socket. You get triggered. At that point, you've got your answer. You know what's the most significant thing in the world at that moment, which is to react. It's simply to react. Because otherwise we're like these dead, lobotomized automatons. We're just not reacting at all. But we see something, we get triggered, and we animate. Oh, yeah. Robots no more. Sentient Homo sapiens. I just got triggered. Yeah. I told you it's just easy. Remember, I pulled a hair. I pulled a hair from right here. That hair should have been up here. Fuck. Fuck, 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 fuck. Right? It's probably one of the most important videos you've ever watched. You're welcome.